Well, happy Monday, everybody. It is time for the last Old World news before Christmas, and we've got a recently dropped Old World Almanac to look at, where we can look at mustering the Grand Army of Bretonnia. Oh yes, but before that, and before we hit those credits, I've just got to talk briefly about the leaked box set cover that we think we've seen. It's not been confirmed to my knowledge, but, and there'll be pictures on the screen for you now, it looks like there won't be a two-player starter box for the Old World this time out, as I think we were kind of told quite a way away at Warhammer Day, or Warhammer Fest, in fact, I think. But what we do have is, it appears to be individual faction starter boxes, and this is very, very exciting. This is what we've seen. What's been leaked is the two halves, the top and the bottom, of the Tomb Kings edition of Warhammer The Old World, and alongside a weighty, meaty tome full of rules and army lists and some dice, scatter dice, let's hope so, some templates and whippy sticks. They're back, fantastic. There's going to be some people complaining in stores and they get whelps from them, but alongside all of that were 93 Tomb Kings miniatures, including that behemoth of a bone dragon. So that's magnificent. There's a lot there to be excited about, and that's before we even see how we build an army this week. So, yeah, what do I think about these editions? I think they're great. I think you're going to have to pick a side and stick with it. 93 minis is a decent chunk, at least 1,000 points, you'd say, once you've put it all together. Maybe more, maybe 1,500, but that's a great way. It's a real core, and getting 40-odd archers and 40-odd spearmen and 3 chariots and is it 16 cavalry, not to mention the bone dragon, which if you build it with the priest on it, actually then gives you a Tomb King on foot as well. It's an absolutely magnificent box, and I cannot wait to see if there's a leak of the Bretonnian one, or for that matter, for Games Workshop to just come out and show us the boxes at this point, because hype is building and it's time to go. Anyway, yes, enough about the leak. Now, on with the main part of the show. Hit the credits. So, here we are then, this week's Old World Almanac, all about mustering the Grand Army of Bretonnia. And this is our first real look at the way you build your force, the composition, and everything we're going to need in order to put together a proper army. So, as we go, look at that. Beautiful, more beautiful Old World art. Night Goblins versus Dwarves. Has there ever been a more classic encounter than those two? So, moving on. Building your army. As always, similarly to how things ended in 8th, there are competition rules. Competition? There are indeed composition rules, where you have to adhere to a certain number of things, and can have limits on exactly how much money you can spend, how many of your points you can spend on certain aspects of your army. But before we get to that, what we actually need to do is take a look at composition lists. So, your list is broken down into a number of categories. These are characters. Obviously, anybody who leads your army, leads regiments, flies something meaty and angry, is a wizard or a spellcaster. All of those people are your characters. They're very important aspects of your army, but equally important perhaps are core units. These are the heart of your army. These are, for Bretonnians, these are men-at-arms, peasant bowmen. For high elves, these are likely to be your spears and your archers, potentially your sea guard. For the Empire, men-at-arms, possibly handgunners, and such things, crossbowmen most likely, and so on and so forth throughout all of the ranges. Your core units are those that aren't glamorous, but are really very effective when used properly and hold together. They're a linchpin around which the rest of your army will rotate and make its moves. And so they're very important. Next up we have special. Special units are akin to elites in 40k, I imagine. They're the skilled and veteran troops, capable of anchoring the line, made up of lesser warriors and doing great deeds in their own right. Very impressive units indeed, but not as impressive as rare units, which include war machines, mighty huge monsters, elite soldiers. So in this example, I think Grail Knights are a rare unit. So no filling your army full of Grail Knights, I'm afraid. Not going to be too many of those, but nor should there be. But in addition to this, army composition list will also include one or both of the following categories. Mercenaries, because mercenaries have always had a little bit of a role to play in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and it's good to see them back. And allies. Now, this is the interesting thing, is allies accounted for at the army list stage means, are they going to be allowed under tournament play? If you're allowed to, as a Bretonnian, take Empire or High Elf or Wood Elf allies, is that something that allows you access to units which greatly expand the capability of your army? Is it going to be something that we see a lot more of, or is it a case that when you get to tournament play, for example, pure army lists are the only way forward? But it is interesting to see that it's included here. So every faction, and if you look at the bottom here, it says yes, even those with the PDF lists, because I think at this point in time, even Games Workshop are getting tired of people complaining that their army isn't supported in this. Just give it time. There's plenty of time. Let's get this bit working, and once we've got this part of the game working, we can have expansions with your army in it. I'm waiting for Skaven to come, but in the meantime, I'm going to collect High Elves and see how we go. So, the Grand Army composition, here we are, and this is the rule specifically for the Grand Army of Bretonnia, and not necessarily the general rule. But for a Bretonnian army, you may take up to 50% of your army's points value as characters, with 0 to 1 Duke, 0 to 1 Baron, or Prophetess. So you're, and that's per 1,000 points. So it's one or the other per 1,000 points. But then any amount of paladins, damsels, and sergeants at arms based on how much you can afford. You must spend at least 25% of your army's value on core units, but Knights of the Realm count as core units, which is ace, and you need to have at least one of those in your force. You must also take at least 1 unit of men-at-arms and or peasant bowmen, and up to 1 unit of knights errant per Knights of the Realm on foot or mounted Knights of the Realm taken. So that's not bad. That gives you a good core bit of flexibility. Special units, you may take up to 50% of your army's value of special units. This can be squires, questing knights, Pegasus knights, and mounted yeomen. You may also take 0 to 2 units of battle pilgrims per 1,000 points. Moving to rare, up to 25% of your army may be spent on rare units. That includes Grail Knights, 0 to 1 field trebuchet per 1,000 points. So limited number of trebuchet, but 3 in a 3,000 point army is going to do some damage. You may take up to 20% of your army's points as mercenaries, no more details on those, and up to 25% of your army's points value may be spent on a single alloyed contingent drawn from any Kingdom of Bretonnia, Army of Infamy, or any of the following Grand Army composition lists from the Dwarven Mountain Holds, Empire of Men, High Elf Realms, and Wood Elf Realms. Now, Dwarves and Wood Elves have suspicious in brackets. I don't know what that means, but I guess we'll find out later. Maybe it means they don't work as well with you as the other two. So we've gone over a lot of that there, but taking a look at the characters, there's your Lords of Bretonnia. Duke right at the top, huge weapon skill of 7, decent strength of 5, as strong as a troll it says. 5 attacks, initiative 5, leadership 9, wounds 4, and things scale down a little bit for each different level. Beyond then, Barons 1 less wound, 1 less attack, and Paladins again 1 less attack, 1 less leadership. You get your base size, regular infantry, they're on 25 by 25, but you can mount them and you can give them a variety of weapons, as you can see. You can also give your Baron or Paladin different knightly vows. Dukes may purchase items up to 100 points, Barons may purchase up to 75 points, and Paladins may take up to 50 points of magic items. They have Rallying Cry, Blessings of the Lady, as do all Bretonnian units, and a Knight's Vow. So there is obviously multiple ranks of heroes, as it's just shown, and I think this will be very similar throughout the whole range with every army we see. But this is something that's exciting. What you can mount them on is a hippogriff. You can stick your lord on a great big 50 by 50 base size hippogriff. And we're seeing more with the mount rules here, that they don't necessarily have their own wounds profile. You aren't killing the hippogriff from under the lord. What it does is it adds 3 wounds to the lord's wound characteristic, taking his 4 wounds to 7, and adds 1 to the toughness, taking that from 4 to 5, which makes him a truly tough beast indeed. They count as having heavy armor because of their pelt. You can apply barding to it, which is brilliant. The movement of 7, fly, and in brackets it says 9, so I assume once you're airborne you get 9 inches rather than 7 inches. 4 attacks at initiative 5 and strength 5. This is tough. This is a cracking. Also got counter charge as well, which is brilliant. But it is a large target, but it does, as a result, get D3 stomp attacks each turn. And finally, this thing also comes with both the Swift Stride and the Terror special rules as well. So it's going to be terrifying opponents, and that extra 3 inches to its maximum charge range is going to make a world of difference. Absolute monster. And back to this massive beasts with a lord on top, dominating the battlefield. And also attracting every single missile the opponent's got, which, for want of a better thing to shoot at, is always a fun sight to see. 40 archers all targeting one big flying beast, when actually they should be winning away the people that are advancing on them across the battlefield. What else do we have? Yes, so very entitled to very fancy baron is entitled to ride the hippogriff or your duke, and they're captured as chicks and trained from birth, and one of the fiercest mounts in the old world. And yeah, that's fair, but there are some better ones, and I am in the middle of, you may have seen if you do follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and if you don't, why not? Sort it out. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you very much. We would appreciate it. But I am just starting a complete rebuild of the original 1994, I think, Prince Imric High Elf Dragon Prince on his lovely blue dragon, and it's a swine. But what a mount that is. What a magnificent beast to put your general on, and he's going to be a centerpiece in my new High Elf army when it's finished, and I am very excited to get going with that just as soon as I can take it to pieces, strip the paint job that my teenage self did, and start again. So aside over, let's take a look at men-at-arms. Men-at-arms, Bretonnian men-at-arms are terrible. I mean, movement 4, it's fair enough. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 2, strength and toughness of 3, wounds 1, initiative 3, attacks 1, and a lowly leadership of 5. This isn't the best unit in the game, but what it is meat for the grinder, and what they've done is they've given you a yeoman as one leader and a Grail monk as another leader. Now the Grail monk, it's a bit crap, to be honest. Even slower initiative for his 2 attacks than the rest of the regiment, but you can get him for 7 points, and then you can give him a Blessed Triptych for a further 25 points, which is expensive. But if this is a big unit and you want it to hold the battlefield, then the Blessed Triptych grants the whole unit stubborn, and stubborn is great because the first time this unit are required to take a break test, they don't need to risk a dice roll at all. Instead, they just fall back in good order. And with their shield wall special ability, which allows them to give ground instead of falling back, they're capable of stealing the impetus from even the heaviest cavalry. If they survive that initial charge, they're not going to run. They are there, and their job is to soak up that hit, probably take a lot of casualties, but survive and not cede that part of the battlefield to the opponent in one round of combat. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. So really interesting special rules, and there are quite a few of these things. It is going to take some learning, it is going to take some knowing what people have got, and it's going to require you to speak with your opponents to make sure that you know what is coming and that they know what you have, so that you can try and plan accordingly. Otherwise, there's going to be some horrific battlefield mistakes, and things are going to go terribly wrong for one or the other player. So we're looking at infantry, and this is the end of it really, but this Grand Army, this basic roster, is not the only way to select a force. Over time, and I imagine they're going to do this as a way of bringing updates into the game. You're going to be able to gain access to armies of infamy, which are wildly different ways to muster a force within the same army, within the same nation. And as an example, they're talking about an exiled Bretonnian lord, which means you could take a border prince bombard into battle, which is just glorious. So knights and cannon in the middle of sharp almost here. If we just get handgunners as well, it'd be fantastic. But you also may be able to do a full knight army by setting up an errantry crusade, which a lot of people I know on the Old World Facebook have been talking about as something that they really wanted, and they're a little bit disappointed that they need men-at-arms. Well, fear not. The option will be there for you. Maybe not immediately, but soon, and that's really all that matters. And so that's it. That's the end. But they got a little treat. There is no more, no Old World Almanac next Monday because it's Christmas, but they will be doing a Boxing Day reveal. However, those of us who've seen the leaks, I don't think we're going to get much new information. It says check in on the 26th for something of an off-white Christmas, and the thing that is the most off-white so far that we've seen in the Old World are the bleached bones of the Tomb Kings, and we already know that their box is a glorious thing. But I think it will be nice to get a full, detailed look at it, because they've been rumbled, the leak's out, it makes no sense to hide it now, so I think we're just going to get a good look at that, and maybe something else, maybe a little extra. A peek at the Bretonnian box would be nice, but in the meantime, this is fantastic. So, to stay up to date with all of this, to see how my poor little dragon is going to do subscribe to the channel, do follow us on Instagram, do follow our Facebook page, just look for the Nerd Theorists on both, and also look at the links in the description because I'll put them there. And yeah, have a great Christmas if we don't get another video out beforehand. I'm hoping we will. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next side.